Okay, we are live, guys.
Hi, welcome everyone to the Barefoot Doctors Sailing live broadcast, and we are so excited to have you guys on board with us tonight or today or wherever you're from. And so hello to everybody live, and hello to everybody that has missed the live broadcast and is here to see the replay. So you're important as well.
So guys, we've never done this before. This is the first time for us doing a YouTube live.
Yeah.
So we are learning as we go. One of those exciting journeys that you do.
We are live, guys.
So,
Hi,
hang on.
welcome everyone to the Barefoot Doctors Sailing live
Hang on, we've got
broadcast, and we
competing
are so
sound here.
excited to
Sorry. Okay.
So give us a thumbs up if you can hear us, because we're new at this. We are, what do they call us?
YouTube virgins.
Live
Virgins.
YouTube virgins.
Okay, we just turned the sound on, so thanks for letting us know, everybody, that the sound's a bit wonky. Hopefully you can also see us now. Elizabeth's face is going off screen because she's, there we go.
Okay, can hear you now. Excellent. Well, I hope you all can hear us now. Thank you so much. Look, we really want some interaction with you guys. We want you to comment and ask questions so that we can, even if we don't get them to get tonight or today, we can go back and answer them later for you. So really exciting stuff. Tonight is all about the big reveal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully most people that have logged on know the story. We lost our boat in 2020 to a fire, and we've been searching for what we consider to be a perfect catamaran for us. Now, this is a very personal thing, obviously, but when we've been putting this information out, we've had a lot of people that are looking for exactly the same thing as us, and we've had this ongoing frustration that none of the boats out there do everything that we want them to do, and I think it's ridiculous. Why not? So we kind of push the boundaries a little bit, and
we've been searching,
we've
been interviewing people, we've been going on location, checking out workshops and boats and all sorts of things, and finally we arrived at looking very closely at the Portofino 52, which is what we're talking about tonight. We love this boat. It ticks a lot of boxes that we have. We fell in love with it straight away, and there were so many things that was offered that wasn't even on our list, so that was a bonus as well. The thing is that we really want a boat to perform. Now, what do we call performance? Because there's so many different variables here.
Yeah, a lot of the comments that people have made refer to performance, that this isn't going to perform. Well, let's talk about the performance what we consider a performance boat to do.
Yeah.
Now, when you're sailing around the world, there are going to be a lot of times when the wind's very soft, so under 10 knots. So if you have a boat that can do wind speed or close to wind speed and also have upwind performance that is reasonably good, then that is certainly the first criteria for me. So we're aiming for a boat that, at the best angle of sail, usually 90 to 120 degrees, will reach wind speed or, with the luck, a little bit more. We're also looking for a boat that will do 10, 12 or 15 knots easily. Now, I don't want to have to be in a 40-knot gale and keep all the sails up and be nervous as all heck in order to achieve 11 or 12 knots. I want to be able to get to 12 or 15 knots under whites, maybe with a code 0, and do it easily under auto helm while we're drinking a cup of coffee.
And we don't want to have to trim the sails all the time, because that's more in the category of the racing boats, which is not where we want to be. We want a boat that's comfortable, fast, and also not so noisy. There's a lot of fast boats out there, but when you're inside, you feel like you're in a washing machine. They're so loud. We don't want that either. We're very particular, aren't we?
Look, I'm seeing lots of comments and lots of thumbs up, so that's really great, guys. Lots of suggestions as well. We'll try and go through them, and if there's any specific questions I can see, then I'll answer them directly. But thanks for all your suggestions so far. Now, there's a computer program that is designed, it was originally designed for monohulls, and they then modified it to be used for catamarans. So this is basically the state-of-the-art VPPs, velocity performance program for catamarans that we had done for this boat using the specifications and the adjustments that Portofino had done with the boat. And I will just get the document up. Let me change to...
So this is the standard that when people need to see these performance indicators, this is the standard thing that people go for. Please, guys,
Okay.
be gentle with these virgins.
Okay, guys. So we're going to start back. You're not quite in the picture.
Sound now. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, great.
You see that you need to be in the picture. Okay, so I'll start again. So VPPs, the Velocity Prediction Program for catamarans, is the ultimate figures that are used for boats, and there's a version for monohulls, and this is the version for catamarans, and this is the gold standard for calculating performance before the boats hit the water. So what's absolutely critical for these to be useful is for the data to be accurate. And they use obviously the hull shape and the lengths and weights and sail areas to create the polars, which are the performance lines, as well as the heel angles, drift, and total hull resistance. So what I think is very important here is that the displacement used for the calculations of this particular boat is the 18,500 weight. Now this boat is 16,000 kilograms light displacement, and that allows 2,500 tons of equipment to be on board, and this is the performance that we'll get with that fully laden boat. So
it's calculated on fully kitted out, with 2.5 extra tons of stuff.
Yeah, so we haven't fiddled the figures here. Well, Portofino hasn't fiddled the figures, and then all the other data is pretty hard data, lengths, water lines, etc. The keel data, the keel areas, the rudders, and going on to the sail areas. This is obviously very important as well. You can see up here the mainsail area is 105 square meters. The jib is 67 square meters, the code 0 170, and the A2 spinnaker 230 square meters. So these are the figures that have been used for this calculation. So do you want to see
the actual polars?
The actual polars, guys.
Yes, they do.
Okay, here we have them. Now,
hopefully you can still hear us, right?
Okay, just make sure, give us a thumbs up if you can still hear us, guys. And
so we still have?
Yeah. Okay, no, they're just behind, honey.
Okay.
Honey?
Yep.
There is a delay between the forecast and our actual real time. So that's a little bit disconcerting for us. Honey?
Yep.
So they're there. Okay, so now we're looking at the diagram. Now, initially this is quite complicated because this has got all three sails calculated here. But what I want to show you, just so the boat speed are these fixed circular lines, and these are the different winds that the boat, under the different wind conditions. So the red line is 5 knots of wind, green line is 10, blue line is 15, black line is 20, and orange line is 25 knots. The solid line is the jib, the mainsail and the jib. This double dotted line or dash dot dot dash lines, this is the code 0 on this side, and this bottom corner with the single dot dash lines, this is the A2 spinnaker. So if we look at these figures, I think I'll start from the inside because that would probably be the easiest. So
we're looking 5 knots.
At 5 knots of wind speed, that's these red lines. You can see under the jib and the mainsail, the boat will do 5 knots. Under the code 0, the boat will do between 5 and 10 knots. So that's about 7 knots. But we'll see these figures actually much more accurately in a sec. In 10 knots, so that's the green line, under jib, we're doing about 9 knots.
Portofino's.
Sorry, the Portofino, the 52, if we were on it, we would be doing about 9 knots. But the code 0 is doing more than 10 knots. So this is about 11 and a half knots in 10 knots of wind.
Looking good.
And also the code 0 here in 15 knots of wind is doing more. This is the 15 knot line, if you can see that. We're doing 16 or 17. The Portofino, the 52, is doing 15 knots or so. Then if we get to, in 20, the black line is the 20 knots. So under jib alone, the boat's doing about 17.5 knots. But under code 0, it's doing about 19 knots. And in 25 knots of wind, the boat's doing over 20 knots with the code 0, over 20 knots with the A2 spinnaker, and just under 20 knots, about 19 knots, or 18 knots maybe, or maybe 17 knots, I'm not sure, probably 18. We'll see these figures exactly. So here you can see this is looking really, really good, but looking at a graph like that is a little bit confusing, a little bit complicated. So what we've done is we've separated out the different jibs from the lines of the jib from the code 0 and the A2. So this, I'm just going to highlight that because that allows them to see my cursor. The main and the jib here is what we're looking at on this graph. So given that with the jib, the most important thing is sailing upwind. So let's look at the upwind performance. And if we come over here to the actual numbers, at 45 degrees, which is what we'd hope to sail upwind at efficiently, in 5 knots, we're doing 4.3 knots upwind at 45 degrees. So that's really, really good as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you've got only 5 knots of wind and you're 45 degrees to the wind, you're doing 4 knots, 4.3 knots. That's very, very satisfying. In 10 knots, it does 6 knots. In 15 knots, it does 9 knots. Again, 45 degrees to the wind, and then 20 and 25 knots around 10 knots. So this boat goes upwind at 10 knots in 9 or 10 knots in stronger winds. Now, what we weren't quite sure. So in 20 knots, if we look, let's look at the downward columns now. So in 10 knots with the jib, we do maximum of 9.1, 9.2 knots in 10 knots, so just under wind speed. In 15 knots, we do 12.8 or 13.6, and in 20 knots, we're doing 17.6 knots as the maximum. In 25 knots, about 18.9 knots as the maximum there. And remember, this is jib only, so that's really easy sailing. If we now move on to the code 0, this is where I must say I was really quite blown away. The 5 knot wind isn't, we haven't got the 5 knot circles here, but if we go to the speeds in the column here, in 5 knots with the code 0, we're doing 6.3 or 5.9 knots, so more than wind speed from 75 to 105 degrees. So I mean, this is really amazing. In 10 knots, we're doing 11 knots of boat speed, and certainly quite a lot of 9s as well in the 75 degrees and 135. 15 knots, maximum speed of 16.5 knots. So this is, and that can you imagine? Can you imagine sailing along in a nice 15 knot wind, lovely day, smooth water probably, 15 knots of wind, and you're doing 16.5 knots.
I know.
Now that would be, we have to still make that decision, don't we? But that's really good. In 20 knots, obviously, it does slightly less than wind speed, but very few boats actually do wind speed up at 15 knots. Most of them drop off at 6 or 8 knots, but the Portofino 52 is holding wind speed at 15 knots of wind and only just under wind speed at 20 knots, and in 25 knots is doing 21 knots of boat speed.
Amazing figures.
So this is good stuff. Elizabeth's just going to have a look at the other messages while I move on to the A2. Now, of course, the A2 only works from 90 degrees onwards, which is why the figures don't go up above 90 degrees. In 10 knots, we're doing just under 10 knots. 15 knots, we're doing just under 15 knots. Hang on, I'll put this up. In 20 knots, we're doing about 19 knots, and there's the 21 knot boat speed up here. So moving over to this side, you can see in 15 knots, it's doing 14.6 knots. In 25 knots, it's doing 21.2 knots. So
There's just a couple of questions here. Ian said, is that 100% with the jib?
Yeah, it's a 100% jib. It's 67 square meters, so it's designed so it can be on a self attacker. So it sits just in front of the mast and flaps across.
And Stephen said, is that with dagger boards?
Yes, well, with centerboards. So this is with the centerboards that have been designed by Raffaele for the Portofino boat.
And this is with a non-fly bridge.
Yeah. This is all of those bits that we put out last week. We've taken off the fly bridge. We have modified the hull shape. We've put in centerboards and we've put in rudders that will kick up for shallow water. So this is all looking very, very good. Now, the other thing that I wanted to do was to actually just compare these figures to some of the other boats. Now, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and old Peter from Sailing into Freedom comments that a lot of manufacturers fudge their figures. So these are the figures that are given. I don't know whether the other boats manufacturers have fudged them or not. But we know the data going into these polars for this 52 are hard, fast data that are exactly right for what we are expecting to do. So if we now go to comparison, we start off with the HH or the OC50. In 20 knots of wind, hang on, I'll just highlight this. In 20 knots of wind, it does 18 knots of boat speed. In 16 knots of wind, it does 13 knots of boat speed. And in 12 knots of wind, it does 10 knots of boat speed. So this isn't quite doing wind speed, and it only manages wind speed up to 6 knots. So 4 and 6 knots, you can see it's matching the speed circles, but once you get up to 8 knots, it's 7 or so knots of boat speed. And its top speed in 20 knots, it doesn't give speeds in 25 knots, so I can't really tell that, but it's already 2 knots under boat speed in under wind speed in 20 knots of wind. If we move on to the 1600, and 1600 was one of those boats that I always love, I still do love, but everybody will know the reasons why we didn't go with that. But it has a top speed in 25 knots of, and here it is, 23.1 knots. The 20 knot boat speed is 18.5 knots, and in 16 knots of wind, it does 15 knots. So again, it's about a knot under. It only does wind speed up to 8 knots of wind. So again, the fact that the Portofino 52 can do wind speed up to 15 knots is very, very impressive. If we then move on to the Balance 482, again, I don't know if I can highlight these ones. The Balance 482 does 21 knots in 25 knots of wind, but then only 17 drops off quite quickly to 17 knots maximum in 20 knots of wind, and then in 16 knots of wind it drops down to 14.5. So still very good, just a couple of knots under boat speed. And again, it also does wind speed up to 8 knots of wind, and then it falls off from 10 knots.
Let's have a look at Ultramar.
Now, Ultramar is difficult because they don't publicly release their polars, and the polars that I have seen for these boats are very disappointing, which is why they might not release them. But I don't know. But these are figures from the polars that I have seen, and they can do wind speed in 4 and 6 knots of wind, but at 8 knots, the polars that I have seen show the boat doing in 12 knots of wind only 8 knots, in 20 knots of wind about 11 knots.
And it's surprising.
And it is surprising. I actually wonder if these figures were done with only minimum sails, like the jib and the main only, and then in 25 knots it's doing 14 knots, and in 30 knots it's doing 18 knots. And really, I would have expected it to do easily a lot more than that. So I don't know why these figures seem so unusually low, but anyway, the bottom line here is that the figures for the Portofino 52 match
sensational.
are sensational. They really are sensational. They match the other boats. I did not expect a boat that's weighing 16 tons of lightweight or light displacement and loaded up to 18.5 tons would perform like this. And that's really, I think, down to the hull design, which is fairly unique, and the spectacular way that they've organized the sail setup. Okay.
How accurate are the numbers for the 52 in comparison to
Real sailing.
real sailing?
Look, that's, and who said that? Breakbox 11. Thanks, Breakbox 11, for the question. Look, these are the most accurate computer calculations for catamarans. They are the gold standard, but we won't know until we actually put the boat in the water if these are the figures that, or until the 52 goes in the water and it's tested itself, that's when the actual figures will be known. But these are this is the gold standard computer program for calculating boat figures that are available.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, MK says you really don't know 100%. No, we don't know 100%. But the thing is,
like any boat, really.
Yeah, the thing is, and even when you buy a boat and they give you those polars before you bought it, they don't actually often confirm that their boats actually sail to those polars. The thing that's, just remember, what we were wanting wasn't a boat that's doing 21 knots in 25 knots of wind, because if it's blowing 25 knots, I'm not going to have the A2 spinnaker up. You know, I'm probably if we're going downwind, I might have the code 0 up, but I'm not particularly wanting to go 20 knots, but I'm wanting to do 15 knots easily. So if this boat has the capacity to do 21 knots or 20 knots in, 19 knots in 20 knots of wind, then if we reduce the sail a bit, we'll easily do 15 knots. And I suppose I'll just go back a section. What's interesting here is if you look at, this is the 10 knot circle here, and then anything over 10 knots, from 15 knots upwards, all of these areas, we're doing 12, 15, and look, this area here, if you take the outer ring of the 15 knot, look how much of in 15 and 20 knots, we're doing 15 to 20 knots of boat speed, or the 52 will do 15 to 20 knots of boat speed. So that is why the actual top figures don't matter that much, as long as these figures are correct. And generally speaking, this is the best program for calculating polars anyway. So we should get good performance. If we can get over 12 knots, then I think that's excellent. What, did you want to say something?
No, well, if we haven't got to your questions, guys, it's because maybe your questions are a little bit more in depth, and when we answer them, we'll give you the details that you need. So it's not that we have overlooked them, but we will get back to them after the live broadcast. So,
Chris Mick also said would really like the wind speed comparison information in table format. Yeah, I'll just go back because it is there. So here we have the tables of the main and the spinnaker, so you can see the exact numbers. And again, that's the code 0 numbers. So here you have the data for every angle of sail and every wind speed, and again the mainsail and jib figures there. So yes, these numbers are now available if people are interested. Obviously, you can go back through the video as well and look at them, but they will be available, I'm sure, from Portofino now that they have been made public. So, any other questions before we move on? All speeds obviously depend on sea state. Now that's a really good point. Wannabe sailor. Okay, hi wannabe. Good luck with that. But sea state, excellent point, because these calculations were also calculated to include allowances for sea state. A lot of calculations are based on flat water sailing, which obviously once you get to 20 knots or even 15 knots, you're not going to be in flat water. So this boat, the calculations for this did include the allowance for going over waves and rocking of the boat. So I didn't go into that because I didn't want to make it too complicated, but these calculations did allow for wave action and rocking as the boat goes up and down, because that does reduce the efficiency of your sail shape.
So Billy Johnson said, will this boat be shown at the Cairns Boat Show? Well, you'll have to talk to Mr. Portofino about that one, Billy. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but it would be spectacular.
Yeah, good point. The thing is, this boat will take 2 years to build, so it won't be the Cairns Boat Show this year or even next year. And then it's really going to depend on where the boat is. I think will depend on where people can see it, actually. But Portofino will organise that for everybody. Any other important questions?
I think.
So I suppose we kind of got to this point. To the decision time. We
are really excited about the POLARS. We are really excited about so many things about the Portofino design. We are in love with it, but we would like to know what you think. Given the history, I'm sure the people have been following us, that the different boats we've seen, and knowing that this one has ticked all our wish list boxes,
including performance.
We'd really like to, if you guys would give, if you were us, would you go ahead and buy this boat? So if you can put a Y for yes, if you think we should, or if you think we shouldn't, or you wouldn't, then put an N for no. And we'd really love to see your comments. You've got 10 seconds.
Well, yeah. If you can, we just want to see the what everybody thinks, and then we can discuss it and go forward. What do you think is the best thing? What do you think is the best thing about possible purchase, and what made you choose this one? Oh, thanks, MK. Look, I suppose, going back through the videos, you'd probably see it, but it's aluminium. We have a little bit of history with fires, so we want a safer boat that won't catch fire as quickly. And we want a rugged boat that if you hit reef or you hit containers or you hit a whale, it's not going to break, won't break as easily. And also we want a light boat that performs well and you can beach, because with our experience of how safe it is, if you're in a storm, you can go up into rivers or shallow bays, which are completely protected from the weather, and sit on the sand or sit in just shallow water that you can't do when you've got 4 or 5 feet of depth. So sitting on the beach in tidal areas is absolutely spectacular. You're reading something? Yeah,
I'm just reading all the comments and look, just within that short period of time, the majority of people have said yes, and have given very positive comments. And
yeah, thanks guys. Dave Hans, yes. The Raptor, Jeffrey Cuff, Mango.
Especially people like Mango that have been following us from, forever. Always there to comment, always there for support right through the hard times and everything. You guys have known the heartache that we've had from when we lost the boat up to now. So you can fully appreciate how we must feel right at this position right now. So
yeah.
So
another few questions before they go off the screen. What are the stats for the flybridge version? We didn't do the POLARS for the flybridge because we accepted that that we were wanting to get the performance, and we were happy to sacrifice. So I don't know what. I'm sure the designers would be able to give some information of how much of a difference that would make. I'm sure it'll make a few knots, a couple of knots of difference at the top end. It might make a knot or two difference at the bottom end too.
But again, it's what sort of sailing you want to do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if people, want to add things on or take things off, then that's a very personal choice depending on what kind of sailing you want to do. So that's up to everybody. There was another good question. The cost difference. So somebody's asking about cost. Stephen Murray, what about the cost?
Good question, Stephen.
Yeah, and I have been. The cost for the Portofino 52, the base price is $1.39 million. plus options add probably $100,000 on top of that, or a bit more, $100,000 or $200,000 probably.
Depends on the options.
It depends what you want to put on and whether you go with lithium or etc. etc. So this is obviously more expensive than a production boat like a Lagoon or a Leopard, but you get so much more. It's much cheaper than the Garcias and those type of boats. But you know, at the end of the day, what got us over the line with this boat wasn't necessarily the price point, because there are cheaper boats out there, but it was all the features that this boat actually has. It's a very stylish boat. It's solid as anything. The other thing about performance boats, we have seen a picture of a capsized Outremer. And I mean, you don't want a boat that's too light, and that's what Richard Ward said about the Seawind, which are about 13 tons. And he said you don't want a boat that's too light, because that makes it difficult to handle, risky if you get hit by a squall. Whereas if you have a slightly heavier boat, then it gives you that safety margin. That's what we were talking about. We want to be able to put the auto helm on and not really worry too much. If the wind blows up, sure, we don't have to be frantically diving to drop the main, because it's about to capsize. So yeah.
All right.
Oh,
so guys.
Okay, so everybody.
So there's so many yeses and such positive comments.
Oh yeah, lots of questions. Bertel Pearson, Sail and Master, Sail and Boom. Look, we are looking at a roller in the boom for a number of reasons, because we think it's easier if something goes wrong. You don't have the sail stuck up the mast that you can't get down.
There's fors and against.
Yeah.
You know.
But the nice thing about a roller furler, either way, as opposed to just the normal folding packing of the sail, is that it can be done and the sails all go away. You don't have to be up there on the top of the boat in a storm when everything's flapping and flogging and especially when there's just the two of us.
But we'd certainly do. If that's the way we go, we'll certainly fill you guys in about it anyway. So there's lots and lots of questions, and we're on a bit of a time limit here because we just are. And we will get to everyone's questions, so don't worry about that, and we'll give you all the details. But right now...
So we have to make a decision.
We have made a decision.
Look, given that the whole thing was dependent on these polars, the decision actually is not hard at all, is it, guys?
You've guessed it, guys.
You know, I mean, really, the polars are even better than what we expect.
We were so excited to get the polars. It was like, oh wow! I mean, we knew because of the shape of the hulls and the experience that John's had with building his own CAD and working with the team with, you know, fine tuning those hulls. And it's just come up trumps, and we were so excited.
Yeah.
So guess what, guys?
So yes, we are going to buy and have made for us a Portofino 52.
So you guys have heard it first, right here. So with that, let's see if we can get Mr. Portofino.
Yeah. We thought we'd try. We'll give him a call. We'll give Raphael a call and see if we can get him on the line to share the news with, so we can share the news with him about getting him to build it for us. Now let's questions. I'll just go see what this screen says. Okay, questions and answers. So, tuckaway bench as a fly bridge. Oh yeah, we have Breakbox 11 is asking, might it be possible to use a tuckaway bench on the fly bridge as a replacement at anchor? Yes, we have thought about that and considered that very seriously. What we something that folds down and then we can fold up and we can have seats up there or lay up there. I think that's perfectly doable. That roller boom is good. MK says price range. What is the price range?
Is that
good luck, guys. pretty obvious that you were going to buy it. Yeah, thanks, Stephen Murray. He says, good luck. It was pretty obvious we were going to buy. Billy Johnson, congratulations. Thanks, guys. Lots of congratulations there. Happy holiday. Barry Holiday says congrats. Oh, everybody's saying congratulations. Thanks, guys. Lots of smiley faces. David Hines gives us about 10 smiley faces and a bottle of champagne. Thanks. We'll enjoy that champagne. Looking at other caravans. Nice look of this boat. Who is the architect? Oh, Christian Pietrich says, who's the architect? It's the architect is Emilio, and it was at the top of those pages. They're an Italian design team. I don't even know his surname. It's a big, complicated Italian name. But the company is Zero, and it was at the top of the. Hang on, I'll go back to that document.
I'm trying to get Rafa on the line.
Yeah, see if you can get Rafa. So this is the Naval Design and Consulting 013 is the company. So that, and Emilio is the main hull designer, and they've got
Rafa's ringing.
Oh, Rafa's ringing. Okay.
Okay, sound's gone.
No sound?
Oh no, I think it should be back now.
Okay.
Okay.
Sound
Let us
is
know
back
if the
now.
sound's back,
I can
guys.
early. Okay. It's such a very nice notice. Thank you very much, guys, for the trust to Portofino and for
Sounds
all the
back.
work that's been done together with our. I think we have a really exciting journey to do all together, because your contribution on this developed is really important from your experience and from our experience as well. And we have
Grab
special
this
guest.
Grab that guy because he's responsible.
Okay. So behind Raphael here is Jerome. Now Jerome is the owner of the Portofino 47.
I like to introduce
that is being built right now. So
and it was Jerome that introduced us to Raphael. So Jerome is the person.
He's responsible. So say hello to everyone, Jerome.
You got squeeze in a bit.
Squeeze in.
Hello, everyone.
We just see your ear.
There we go.
There we go. That's better. Say hello to everyone. So you were the first one. You're having the first boat built. So how do you feel about it?
I'll tell you when it's finished.
But it's looking really good now. You've got the hulls completely covered, and it's looking fantastic, isn't it?
So you won't mind if we share updates on.
You can see the shape now, and the aluminium work is in a very good progress. Okay, Joe, it's gone. The aluminium work is in a very good progress. I'm very proud of the team, and they did a great job. And also the very good news is then the bending of the aluminium has been done with a lot of accuracy, and we are expecting a very limited quantity of filler on the aluminium to adjust eventually the factor of the bending.
Yeah.
The quantity of filler, just to give you a value, is less than a millimeter in the worst of the case. So the aluminium bending is perfect. So general mode is going on. Of course, now we have to, from tomorrow morning, we have to wake up with a different mission. 2 boats, not one.
Actually, someone has just commented here and said, "Can you hurry up with it, Raphael? Because they don't want to wait too long to see it." So that was.
We will do our best. We have to reconsider the yard, the team, and not the team for design, but the team to build, because we start to receive a lot of requests, especially after the publishing on your channel, and Portofino is becoming more and more. We didn't start any advertising, so the only advertising that has been done is through your channel, and we are getting a lot of requests. So I believe that if how we plan to do, we will do every week, because we have to tell to all our friends, followers, what's going on week by week. So if we make an history with this building, become much more popular, and I think we have to rent another shed and duplicate the team building. So,
I think so.
Well, that'd be great, because
So-
our boat will be
10,000
finished faster.
The 10,000 square meter we have now is only for 3 boats, and 2 is gone, and the other one is coming. So we start to be already tight.
Yeah. So look out, guys, out there. If you're thinking of maybe getting a Portofino or getting more detail, then you better contact Raphael really soon, because there'll be no room in the shed. Or he'll have to get another shed. There'll always be room, won't they, Rafa?
No, we came up with a lot of news for your boat, and maybe there is something else. Keep suspense.
Oh, now he's keeping us in suspenders. So, guys,
We have something in mind, but we need to discuss later.
Okay, well, that's a
we
really
already
you
are
go.
on track with the design of your boat. The design of your boat now need to go ahead, but we discuss. We know each other now since 1 year almost, and this boat is the result of all the time that we spend together. We learn from you, you learn from us from some point, from the other point. We mix our experience, and I think is a huge value added to this project. But I have in mind to make it really special, like a cherry on the cake. We will talk later about the cherry. The cake is cake.
Well, look,
But before the first, some decoration will be on top.
All right. Okay.
We're really looking forward to the whole journey, and the exciting thing is that we, all of us, are going to share the journey together. So all of the people that have been on this journey with us so far, you're going to be giving us up-to-date updates, and there'll be videos on different aspects of the boat as they come to light.
Yeah. You were also setting up a time-lapse camera so we can see the boat actually growing over time, I believe.
We are doing, yes, with a credit card, then you can pay we bought already 4 cameras, then we'll do the full recording and the time lapse later.
Yeah.
So we are organizing, because everything. We are not building boats since 50 years. We are 50 years in the market, and not as a boat builder. So we need to organize this around the surround. We organized the first chain, but the surround need to be organized. And then we are doing. There is a new member of the team, that is Marta, and she will do only the media. It is not only social media, so all this kind of communication.
Yeah. So she'll be fixing the website and keep getting it up to date now. Somebody was wondering why the 52 wasn't on your website. I said, because it hasn't been designed yet.
In process.
Tomorrow.
That's right.
So, guys, we're just about out of time, and we want to wind up now. We want to thank Mr. Portofino himself, Raphael, for coming on, and also for being so flexible and open, and being able to deliver all those things that we knew was possible.
Could be done, yeah.
Yeah. So we want to share the journey with all of you.
It was a pleasure to work with you guys, because we spent really a lot of time together.
Yes,
we need to tell to the people that delivery is not. It comes from 8 months fragment. You know, it's not
yeah,
something then. Oh, in the morning we decide.
Yeah.
We met in Grand Boat Show. We met in Grand Motte Boat Show. We met in France. We met in Dubai a few times.
Yeah.
There is a lot of work behind this.
Uh-huh.
yes.
And we've been spending a lot of time with your design team as well, Emilio and the guys, haven't we? Because
Yes.
we've been pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
If you want to tell them something, they are online. They're watching you.
Oh, so hello guys.
Hi, Amelia.
They've done a fantastic job, and we can't wait to show the final result to all of you guys, because these guys have been working behind the scenes. So, you know, the wind beneath the wings, I guess you could call it, because there's an amazing team in Portofino, and you just don't see them all.
And the page of the website with the full team, it's ready. It's done.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
We are doing a refresh of the website with all the news, including the 52, and we just have completed the page of the team. So everybody
great.
can go on the www.portofinomarineservice.com and check the team. And now we have the complete team with the history of each member of the team.
That's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, somebody was actually asking in comments what was the name of the architect or their company, and I only knew Emilio. I didn't know what his surname was.
We're on first name.
Everything in the page of the team on the website.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to say goodbye. We're going to say goodbye to Rafa now before we get cut off completely. And thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and your patience with us, and we can't wait to spend the next 2 years with this next project. So it'll be wonderful. Thank you from us.
Wow, fantastic.
Okay, bye, Rafa.
Bye, Rafa.
All the best.
Bye to everybody.
Bye.
All right, guys. So we really appreciate you spending this time with us live. And what I want to say is, how come Sea Wench has made it up? She said she's just about crying, and she's really excited and everything. And we're really excited to share this news with you guys first, because you know this is our life, and you've done the journey with us. So thank you all so much for spending your time and your support. We really, really appreciate it. And that's not just lip service. You can see it in our faces how much we really appreciate your support.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we went through rough times, and the amount of support we got from all of you guys, you know, after the fire was amazing, and the year after was really hard. So we do appreciate the support we've had from everybody. Obviously, we are moving forward and creating our dreams, and I think that's the nice thing, is that we haven't given up. And in fact, I mean, it's kind of made us a little bit more like kicking down doors. Like before the fire, even when we got the 50, we said, oh, well, okay, so we can't have this and we can't have that. After that, I think, no, damn it, let's get it done the way.
How can we do it?
That's right. This is what we want. Let's get it done. And I really hope that that's also going to benefit a lot of other people out there who can then both push the designers and the boat building companies to realize what are quality issues in boats, but also give more variety and more options that are actually very important when you're living on board a boat. So Elizabeth's looking at more.
There's just so many names here. You know, we've got Jim from US, and you know, he came sailing with us on the 50 in the Bahamas, and you know, so he's going to want to come sailing again with us on this boat. So keep watching, guys, because you know, we would love you guys to come and experience as much of this boat as we can. It's going to be built wholly and solely in Dubai. That was one of the other questions. So we're going to be flying backwards and forwards a fair bit, but we're going to give you lots and lots of updates, and there'll be lots of invites and lots of really good fun stuff, because it's we're about inclusiveness. It's not us building a boat. It's, as far as we're concerned, you guys are all our crew, and you're all the team as well. Yeah.
And the other thing we're going to share with you all is Raffaele does have an awful lot of really innovative ideas about
Yeah.
how to fit boats out, and we're going to share those with you as we go forward. Obviously, some major things like the kick-up rudder, that centerboard that doesn't break. If you hit something, it just pops up, and then you just take it back down again, and you don't even have sacrificial things that break. But lots of internal stuff too. So I'm not going to list them all, but over the months we will share all those things with you, because this is just such an exciting journey of innovation. And in this journey we've also met lots and lots of really wonderful boat builders. And you've seen some of them and you haven't seen others, but we're hoping to share all the other interesting boat builders with you too.
Yeah. So, but you know, the star of the show, obviously, is
It's you.
It's a Portofino 52. Oh, and 47 too for Jerome. So, guys, that's it. We won't take any of more of your time. We really appreciate what you've given us, and we're very happy that you are part of our world. So, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, especially those guys in Australia. It's either 2 or 3 o'clock
That's
and now
ridiculous.
4 o'clock
What
in the
are you
morning.
thinking?
But thanks very much. That does
But
show
we love you.
dedication. So thanks, Carleen, and all the other watchers from South Africa Australia, I mean,
Yeah.
who are watching, waking up in the middle of the night on a Monday morning. That shows dedication, guys. What else? Was there anything else we need to say before
I
we
think
go?
you can mention it next time.
Next time. Okay. We'll see you next week in another episode. And if you guys think that it's good to do live videos, make a comment as well. Let us know. It's kind of...
When something special comes up.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so thank you very much. We love all of you very much, and we really appreciate your support. And that's it from us. Barefoot Doctors Sailing, signing off. Bye
All the best,
from us.
guys. Bye.